to actually, welcome to our last Wonder Girls virtual workshop of 2023, and maybe our last one for a really long time, because we're getting busier and we're in more schools. We're not going to continue with the virtuals. It just becomes a little bit too much for us, but super excited to have Kaitlyn Suarez here with us. For those of you who do not know what Wonder Girls is, we are an after-school girls empowerment program, and we cater to middle schools and high schools in Bergen and Rockland counties right now, and we're slowly expanding into the boroughs, so Queens and Manhattan and the Bronx. So if anybody knows of any schools in those areas, or has connections there, we would love to be connected with them. And the 4 pillars of Wonder Girls are creating confident females, helping them, develop proper leadership skills. We do a ton of community service, and then we also implement business skills into our curriculum. So that's kind of the gist of what we do. And I don't want to get too much into Wonder Girls because I think a majority of you know who we are and what we do. And I want to introduce Kaitlyn Suarez tonight as our amazing speaker. I actually met Kristen, her sister, in Southampton last summer, and we bonded, and she became close with my daughters, and it's just become this beautiful friendship. And Kristen was like, I love what you're doing. I have an amazing sister that I think would love to be a part of it too. And here we are, really a year later, and well, maybe like 8 months. And Kaitlyn is going to be our amazing speaker tonight. She is a scientist, a geologist, and Kaitlyn will tell you a little bit more about who she is and what she does. So I'm going to kick it off to you, Kaitlyn.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And I'm excited to be with you all tonight. Thanks for coming out. Yes, I'm Kaitlyn Suarez. I'm a geologist. I'm currently finishing my PhD, so hopefully I will soon be Dr. Kaitlyn Suarez, which will be exciting, and kick off the rest of my career. And so today I'll go over a little bit about what I do and then how that fits into the broader context of global warming and climate change and sort of the steps for the future for technology and society. And so we're going to run the presentation through Kahoot. So if you haven't done Kahoot before, this is the link, but I'm going to start sharing this. Let me get my Kahoot up. Okay.
And then everybody will just click on the link, right, in the chat.
Yes, the link in the chat. And then when you bring up that website, you should see the game pin, and you can insert that pin and then make a username.
So
sorry if you hear this noise in the background. My neighbors are chopping wood, I think. I don't know if you can hear it.
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's very interesting. So
Okay.
I think
I'm not in there yet.
okay.
And then where's the game pin again? Let me see.
So 9347068. Okay. So I think it's everybody. Let me see. I'll give it one more minute or a shout out if you're not in, and then I'll wait.
I think there's a couple more that aren't in yet.
Okay. So it's, yeah, the Kahoot website, and then sometimes it's easier to do it with your phone too.
Oh, we have Faith is just joining.
And sometimes Kahoot does a weird thing where it like times you out. So keep an eye that you don't get somehow booted off this. Haven't used enough to understand all of the Kahoot ways.
Okay. Hi, Faith. Looks like she's connecting twice. Faith, are you on there? Hi.
Hi.
Hi. And
Now
so
I can-
if you click on, are you on a laptop?
Yeah, I'm gonna get on.
Okay. So Kaitlyn, our speaker, just put a link in the chat. It's a Kahoot. So you just have to click on the Kahoot or copy and paste it into your browser. And then that's the pin for the Kahoot. I know all of you know how to use Kahoot. So let us know when you're in.
It does a weird thing. Keep an eye that it doesn't boot you out. I feel like,
I know, look, wait, what's happening here?
I
So
don't know. It does a weird thing. Don't let it boot you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 of us in there right now. Natalie, are you in?
I was in, and then I got booted out.
I don't know why it does this.
So there's 8 of us in there.
Fight against Kahoot. Don't get booted. So
Oh, you have to make a new
Can you?
every time.
Say-
Can you hear?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. What were you going to say, Faith?
Can you?
Oh, I think the connection is weak.
Yeah, now it works.
Okay, perfect.
Don't worry about me. Just
Okay,
started.
now it works. Yeah.
I want to make sure that Faith gets in there.
Okay. The thing is.
So Faith, you see the link, right, in the chat for the Kahoot?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. And then if you want, I can read you the number or
9 3 3 4
7068.
7 0 6 7 0 6
68. Mhm.
check. Someone else just left. Okay, they're back.
So there's 8 of us in there.
All right. That everybody? Should I just press start?
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why.
That's 8, right? We're good.
Yes.
9, actually.
Rennie's in there. Melina. Yep.
All right. I think that's it. So I'm going to hit go before we lose it.
Okay.
Okay. Kahoot. We've done it. Okay. Okay, so this the start of the presentation, more than just a rock. This is minerals for a sustainable future. And I want to start by building a word cloud. So what does a geologist study? So if you had like one word, what do you think a geologist studies? And we've got 30 seconds on this, so.
You can unmute or you could put it in the chat.
Yeah, so it's going to build the word. You should type it into the word cloud on the Kahoot. It should.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see it.
Sorry. I don't know if that was, there can be a few more, so we can do it again, but through
Yeah,
the,
no, that's cool.
yeah, okay. So yeah, geology, rocks, rocks in the earth. And so all of these are correct. And it turns out that when we think about a geologist, we do typically think about rocks, but it's also the oceans we study climate. Some of the work my friends do is completely on a computer and they never even go outside. And some do spend a lot of time in the field, as we say, looking at rocks. And so how did I get into geology? I grew up on Long Island. And if you've ever been to the North Shore of Long Island, there's a lot of rocks on the beaches. And my sister, who's on the call, my brother and I would collect rocks, and we would usually put them in a box and then keep the box in our house. So if you've ever, if you have a box of rocks too, you can write that in the chat. But this was what got me started when I was young. And then in middle school was the first time that I took an earth science course. And it really was the first time I also did some science experiments, and I got to present this poster. And it was a really fun experience for me. And then that kind of grew as I got older and I went to college. I realized how much I enjoyed studying the earth and all the different processes that affect our day-to-day life. And so I continued as a geologist in college. And I was really fortunate that I got to study in different places and different projects. So I saw oceans and I did some ocean research. You could see I'm collecting a water sample here. Here I am, I'm hiking in a volcano in the Caribbean islands, trying to study how these volcanic eruptions started. And then I also studied glaciers for a little bit, trying to understand like how glaciers are melting and what they used to look like in the past. But through all these experiences, still my favorite one was studying rocks. And so I am happiest when I'm really, up and close and personal with rocks. And it's been a really enjoyable career since then. So as I've gotten into my PhD now, it's become my
Hold on,
mission.
Kaitlyn, I'm going to interrupt
Yeah.
for 1 minute.
Okay.
So when you applied to college, what did you like? What was your major exactly?
Geology.
So
Well,
you said I'm going to go, I mean, I know geology, but was there anything
Yeah.
else like?
Actually, I went to college. I was undecided when I went to college, but I thought I might study either environmental science or become actually pre-med to become a doctor. And when I got there, I realized that if you had like an umbrella, geology kind of covers earth science. It's like a broader scope.
Okay.
And so because of that, I thought, well, if I studied geology, I could do any earth science and environmental science job.
Yeah.
And so that's what I chose.
Cool.
And I decided I was not cut out to be a doctor.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Everyone's feel free to shout out if you have questions too. I'm happy to answer them. But yeah, so this has been the mission now, and looking forward towards the future as a geologist. And I think, I want to just write another word cloud. So it's in the Kahoot app. Hopefully you can see it. If you hear the word like climate change, what's one word that comes to mind when you hear that phrase? It could be two words too, but just like a general idea of when you hear the phrase climate change.
Can you answer?
The question.
Tell me the question again.
Yeah, when you hear the phrase climate change, what comes to mind? And I think the Kahoot just kind of ran its time, but you can also shout it out if there's a word that comes to mind. Just, if you could see someone on the screen say like warming, deteriorate, melting glaciers, melting, weather. I don't know, Faith, if you have a word that comes to mind, you're happy to hear it. I know the Kahoot goes a little bit fast. So yeah, all these things are accurate, and I think the term climate change. I see humans in the chat. It's a word that you hear a lot either in school or on the news, and sort of sometimes with politicians talking about it. And so I want to start with just like, what is climate change, and how we think about it from a scientific standpoint is just a simple observation. And the observation is if you were to take the average measurements of weather every single year, going back from the 1800s all the way up to the present, we notice that the weather has been getting warmer and warmer and warmer each year. And so scientists have been asking, why has the weather gotten warmer? I think if you can think of the Earth like the human body, it really likes to be at like a stable temperature. And so when it gets warmer, we get a little bit worried about why and what are the causes. So what scientists have been studying and found out is that one of the biggest drivers is actually some of our electrical use. We have a lot of energy now in recent history, and we drive more cars since the 1800s. And in order to make the cars and electricity work, we have to go and drill for oil and gas. And so that's things that are buried in the ground. We take it out of the ground, and then we do a bunch of different processes, and then we end up burning this fuel. And as it burns, it emits something called carbon dioxide, and it's a gas that's in the earth. And the thing about it, though, the reason why we're concerned is that when you have a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it creates what we call the greenhouse effect. So I don't know about you all, but I'm very lucky that there's a greenhouse right by my office for school. And so in the winter, I love going in there because it's warm. So it creates this like microclimate, and every time you go inside, it's a lot warmer than the outside. And so if you think about that in terms of the planet, the carbon actually helps to like insulate the earth, and it keeps the hot sun rays that come down to earth, and it prevents them from leaving. So it creates like a little climate that becomes warmer and warmer the more carbon that's in the air. And so for this reason, this is causing these temperature differences that you saw before. And so Kahoot's coming back, because this is a little bit longer time, but one of the questions is, how could we reduce fossil fuels? And so this could be like something related to energy, or as I mentioned, are used for cars. And so this is the big question that scientists have. Like what can we do to start reducing fossil fuel use? I think if the Kahoot is too quick, the chat's also fine. I'll read it out loud. But once the answers are in Kahoot, I'll do a little brainstorming session, you'll see. So we got 10 seconds.
Were you always, did you always care about the environment when you were younger too?
Yeah, I think my parents would say this. My mom's on the call. We had a tree once, and I refused to have that tree cut, but it was eventually cut down, but I didn't want it to be. All right, so let's see. We have for answers. So using lower emitting power plants. So having power that's with less sort of carbon going into the atmosphere. Eating less meat. So here's less emissions. I'll put those together. Alternative energy for daily use, which is similar to using the sunlight and the soil and other natural resources. We can carpool and have electric cars. I think those go together. There's something called the CFCs into the atmosphere. That's another really important one. It can cause more pollution and create more of a problem for the poor atmosphere. And then here's using windmills, electric vehicles, less AC, and fracking. So these are all, I'll put this one with emissions. These are all really important and great ideas for this. And one of the things too to keep on the geology side is this point about electric cars, the windmills, and the electric vehicles. And let me just see the chat real quick. Yeah, there is a smart group here. And so these, I think they're all very important. I'm going to highlight just on the technology piece of this. As a geologist, I spend time thinking about it. But as, there's a scoreboard for some reason. Hold on. As we try to make this transition to electric cars and renewable power, in order to create these devices, there's something that's very important for that. And you might guess that it's rocks and minerals. And so I'm going to do a quick quiz because sometimes I know rocks and minerals seems like the same thing, but we're going to test our knowledge and then I'll explain the difference. So the quiz is time. So is this a rock or a mineral? And it's going to be this purple, I'm not going to give it a name, the purple thing you see here. Do we think this is a rock or a mineral? Yeah, so it's a mineral. So this is something called amethyst, which I love because it's purple. And so one of the sort of giveaways for if it's a rock or a mineral is if you see something that's very similar in the entire specimen that you're holding, it's probably a mineral. And so it's got the same color, it's all purple. This one's a mineral. And yeah, the organic and inorganic, absolutely right. So these minerals are inorganic, and it's someone's birthstone, Lila's birthstone. That's beautiful. My birthstone is coming up next. I'm going to show you in our next quiz. So is this one a rock or a mineral? And then if you know the name too, you can guess what the name of this one is. So it's just the red one. That's the only one.
Can you repeat what the question is?
Is it a rock or a mineral? Do you see the red item on the screen here? I'm highlighting it with my cursor. It just is quick. It's this one right here. So yes, it's a mineral. I'll show you again. So this one is garnet, and garnet is my birthstone for January. So if anyone else is in January, it's your birthstone too. Like I said, this is something, is a mineral. It's got all the same color. And if you were to start jumping over to this other side here, you would hit another mineral. So this is just one mineral called garnet. Okay, next question is the same, but I want to know if this is a rock or a mineral. So it's got, I'll explain what it's got after, but take a guess if it's a rock or mineral. Rock, that's right. So the reason we know this one's a rock is the difference being is that there's a bunch of different minerals within this rock. So there's stuff that's a little bit darker, there's pink, there's white. And so all of these have many different minerals to make up this one bigger rock. Okay, last question for rock or mineral. And this one's more of a trick question. So is this one a rock or a mineral? Yeah, so you guys are good. I thought it was more tricky. It's a rock. So this rock is different than the one I showed you before. It's mostly one color, but you can see there's tiny white pieces in here. And so it's made up of primarily two different minerals, one that's black and one that's white. And it's different than the one before in that it's way more fine grained. So it's a different type of rock. And actually, if you've ever seen or been to like Iceland and seen pictures of the beautiful waterfalls there, this is the kind of rock that's in Iceland. Okay, so why am I doing all these questions? So I want to go back to our technology development. So in order to make these electric cars that we need for our future and reducing fossil fuels, we need these different minerals in order to make the cars. And if we don't have them, the car won't be able to be manufactured. And so what are these steps towards a sustainable future? What are the things that I think about? And the biggest is that the geologists help in finding these minerals so that we can make and produce our technology. And so across the world, you can see there's many different mines, and all these mines produce different types of minerals. And so I think the US, there's a beryllium mine, there's cobalt in Canada, but we all have to work together across the world to supply our industry with these minerals. I studied a lot of my time in the past graduate school experience over in the Adirondack Mountains in New York. So I don't know if anyone's been there. If you want to pop it in the chat, you can. It's really beautiful. If you haven't been, this is what it looks like. It has beautiful rivers and mountains, and that's me in the field trying to avoid the mosquitoes because there's a lot of them in the summertime. And so my goal is to actually find these rocks here in the Adirondacks, and then I will spend some time in one location studying it. So for example, I would be here at this really beautiful like cliff face, and if we were to observe going from the top to the bottom, we can see that there is this like lighter color rock here, and as you go down, you hit something that's darker and black in color, and then goes light again as you look down. And so if I highlight that for you, you can see there's this really like thick, dark black band that goes across the center of the rock where the rock hammer is. And this is what's really important for our cars. And so we would call this ore, and then it's surrounded in something that we call granite. So if you have a granite countertop, this is the exact type of rock that would be on that countertop. And so I would go to this.
Is it bad for us to have granite countertops?
No, it's okay. I know people talk about radiation from it.
Oh God. Okay.
But it's not bad. It's not
Okay.
enough to be
Okay.
harmful. Granite's beautiful. You're gonna see, I'll show you a close-up of what this rock looks like. Because we collect samples, which is this. I knew this was going to be a little tricky here. Sorry, friends. There it is. So I'll take samples of these rocks from the field, I label them, and then I'll bring it to my laboratory where, as a geologist, I'm trying to understand how this rock forms so that I can also help find other places in the world where we might find the same rock and be able to go there for mining or for exploration. But how do I go from this rock to something I study? So the first thing I'll do is actually cut the rock using a saw. And so here's something called the diamond saw, which you can see is a little bit quick, but I'll play it again. So we have, let me go stop it here. As this goes through, I don't know if anyone has any idea why we use a diamond saw. So there's actual diamonds on that blade that I'm using. Does anyone know why?
Girls.
I'm not really sure, but I think it's because like diamond is like the hardest like chemical like metal or something like that.
You did it, yes.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the hardest mineral. That's awesome.
Mineral, yeah.
That's exactly right. So it's the hardest one. That means it cuts through all the rest of them. And so we have diamonds, like I said before, in that on this blade. It makes a really beautiful cut right through the rock. And so you can see, and when Kahoot cooperates, you can see. Hold on. I'll give it a second, but okay. So it cuts this really beautiful. I want to go back just one slide because I think it's prettier, this one. Like perfectly straight right through a rock. It's like almost like cutting through butter with your diamond saw. It's actually really fun. I wish we could all be together and I would show you how to do it. And so we take this first cut through, and then I'll make sorry, my friends. I'll make actually another box around this, and I'll make some more cuts so that I get a little tiny rectangle shaped rock in the end. And it's like about this big that you can hold it in your hand. And the point is that I just want to be able to like have something small enough that I can work with. So what we do is then take that rock and we'll glue it to a piece of glass. So you can see thin glass I have here. And then once I have the glass, man, I knew this Kahoot was going to give me a problem. There it is. I actually glue the rock to the glass and then I shave it down super, super thin. So it's thinner than like the width of a hair. And then when it's that thin, light can transmit through it. So you can see right now, some of this is a little bit dark because these minerals are dark, but the rest of it is pretty translucent. The light's coming right through our eyes. And then that sets me up so that I can get on the microscope. So I spend many, many days here looking down the microscope. So you can see the sample at the bottom there. And then it magnifies all the different features inside the rock. And it would look something like this in the end. This is underneath the microscope. And so does anyone know what the different colors on our microscope sample, like what these all represent, these tiny blobs that you see, the blacks, the orange, the white? What do we think these are?
Minerals?
Yeah, they're minerals. Awesome. So every single color you see is the outline of a different mineral. And so that's like I see minerals in the chat. Exactly. It's almost the DNA of a rock. This is, if you could take almost any rock and do what I just showed you, you would see different little tiny crystals like this creating one big rock. And so I want to show you another rock that the minerals. The other rock that I look at is the ore sample. So the one I just showed you was the granite that's sitting over here. But the ore is where this is the thing we need for technology. And so I did the same process. I cut the rock, I glued it to glass, I shaved it really, really thin. And you can see now that there is this really like green mineral here, and you can see darker black minerals up through here. And now the next slide I'm going to show, I actually did some kind of fancy computer work with this, and I turned this whole thing into a sketch so that we can like see the different minerals a little bit easier. And it's really like large scale for us. So keep an eye on this part here because it will look familiar in the next slide. So here we go. Okay, so this is a cartoon sketch of that same exact piece of rock. You can see the green out over here. That was that same mineral that we saw before. And so everything in orange is really important. And that's the mineral that we use in cars. So the rest of them aren't as important, but the orange ones are very, very important. And you can imagine that after the geologist finds this sample, they would bring it to a plant, they'll take and extract the orange mineral, and then eventually that orange mineral gets worked around and placed into the vehicles. So that's like how all these things become made for society. And so I'm going to switch gears now. And it's a new game where you have to drop a pin. So I don't know if you played this one before, but I want to know which product needs minerals. And so you can move your picture around underneath the pin and drop it when you have an answer. For which item? We got the phone, computer, plants for farming, makeup, medicine, and then big fancy sort of healthcare equipment. So hopefully that was enough time, but awesome. So we have a whole range. So we have medicine, phones. No one picked a computer, but that's okay. It was a bit of a trick question because you only had one pin. And actually, the truth is that every single one of the things on the screen uses minerals. So it's in our makeup. We use it for fertilizing the plants we eat. We have them in the computer, in medicine. And so it's really, really important that we find minerals and help to, sustain our life and all the things that we use in it.
So like for makeup, let's say, Kaitlyn, is it sort of like man-made minerals, like where they make them in a facility, I mean, in like a lab?
That's a really great question, which is like right to my next
Oh,
step.
sorry. Okay.
No, which is perfect. Because so the answer to that is no, they're crushing rocks, and the glittery kind of like look to stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen mica, the word mica in
Yeah.
so that's a mineral. So mica is this really beautiful, if you look at it, it shines at you. And so they take the mica, they crush it up, and it gets incorporated into a makeup product. So you have minerals in your makeup. But one of the big steps is, we all know that mining is important, but as this picture shows, it can be also bad for the environment. So how do we get minerals that are supposed to help the environment, but it also creates these holes that we have to deal with later, or cause pollution as it's happening? So like, what are the ways to create low impact mining? How do we recycle the minerals we've already been using technology? And then the other point about, do we make them in a laboratory? We cannot yet make them in a lab. And I think that really, especially for the future generation of scientists, we need to figure out how to do that, because then we wouldn't have to worry about finding them or mining for them. And so it's a really big question, like, how do we make them in a laboratory? And there's everything on this picture and more.
Right. Well, I guess that was going to be, I don't know if anybody else has questions. I'm asking a million, but like, if all cars, let's say, went electric, right?
Yeah.
So how would there be enough to sustain electric vehicles? Like,
Yeah.
how would there be enough ore, right,
Yeah.
to sustain electric vehicles?
Yeah, that is a big question that I'm very worried about.
Okay.
And so I think we're starting to acknowledge that this idea that we're just going to be able to create new cars and have this endless supply of materials for it is not totally realistic. And so either we need to change, we need to be able to recycle everything we create instead of having things go to landfill, or we need to be able to do this where we can produce them without mining. Yeah, because it's a concern. So these things, I always think problems kind of sound doom and gloom, but I want to like be really upbeat that when you know what the problems are as a scientist, or as somebody, anyone who's really interested, even if you're interested in journalism or English, if communicating is really important, but that if you know the problem, you can think about creative ways to help solve it. And so I like to tell there's problems, but I have hope, because I know there's brilliant minds here and in the world, and the women we're taking over. We're out doing, really incredible things, and that we'll find the solutions to these problems, but they are problems right now. And so I have one more to the drop the pin game. So do you think individuals have a role to play in addressing climate change? And you can say either you agree by placing your pin on the agree side, or something in the middle, or disagree. And so, I mean, like, each individual person, do we have a role to play? Yes, we have a nice spread here. Most people agree for one part of it, maybe not entirely, maybe a little bit more towards the middle. And I think it's a hard question, because it feels like sometimes as one person, we don't have enough power to do something really big and addressing such a really big problem. But it's all these little decisions that we make that really add up. And so some of the things we can think about doing, obviously, as best as we can, to recycle and take mass transportation. And then, as I was kind of alluding to before, besides voting, which I'm going to get to back in a second, but the future engineers, the future teachers, the future lawmakers, and journalists and writers and creatives, and all these different, all of us who go into the world, we all can do a part in helping to either educate or inform or think about ways that we can all contribute to helping this. And I think really the biggest thing, and you're all are here, so I don't have to tell you, is knowing and having an education and reading and being as informed as you can, so that we can help make as best of a decision as possible. And I think for the younger generation too, because it seems like sometimes a lot of this is out of your control in terms of like who makes the laws and and who's in office, which in terms of voting. But I'll point out that a lot of the movement right now has really been youth driven. There's been a really incredible surge of different laws that have been passed from youth movement. There's whole international organizations for this is the UNFCCC, and I never remember what this stands for, but this one right here is international and is designated towards, I think that the age range is I don't remember the age, but it's everything under 35 can join this organization and be a part of different activism, or I think they even get in front of lawmakers at some points and have given speeches in really big settings. And so maybe too, does anyone recognize who this is on the screen with all those people behind her? You heard of her before?
Yeah, I think that's Greta.
Yeah, that's
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. And so she kicked off worldwide incredible movements. And I'll end with Greta because I think she says it the best, but she says, you're never too small to make a difference. And our voices really do resonate no matter how old we are or what we do for our living. So yeah, it's been really fun to chat with you today. That's my presentation, but I'm happy to kind of just chat about anything if you have questions or.
That was amazing and super educational and fun.
Okay,
I feel like
good.
I haven't had a lesson like this in forever. At least for me it was. What did you girls think?
I have a question.
I really liked it.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rennie.
So, wait, you said geologists, they mine for the rocks that we use in our day-to-day activities, right?
Yeah.
For cars. But does the mining hurt the society? Does the mining hurt the earth? Because you're drilling and does it affect the earth? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does it ever get too much?
That's a really, really good question. And it's my concern too. And so I think there's two ways to think about it. I think at the time that you're doing the drilling, it could hurt. And it's also a little bit like the company. So you can have something that's bad and then make it worse by not caring what happens to the environment and not doing anything to help sort of we would say contain that kind of problem. And I think in the past, there's been really loose regulations and people kind of just would mine and then put stuff in rivers and nobody was paying attention. No one told them that's wrong. And now there's more especially through different movements and public awareness that we say, we understand that mining is almost essential right now. We don't have a choice. We have to mine because we need these things, but we do have a choice of what it does to the environment. We can choose to take the contaminants and put them somewhere where they don't spread into the water. We have a choice of, working with the local people who it might affect and making sure that they're getting money back for this. They're giving us their land that we mine, and they should be not sort of left to just deal with this, the garbage that's extra from it. And so those kinds of things really come into play. And that's companies need to work and have been doing a lot better about being less destructive. But the answer at this point is yeah, which is sad because you want to help the earth, but you also have to kind of do things that aren't super, I said green and healthy for it. So it's a double-edged sword.
I feel that's with everything, right? If we cut down too many trees, if we drill too much for oil, it's where, I guess there just has to be some type of balance, right?
Yeah.
Anything in excess is awful.
Yeah. Or if we mine, okay, then put the earth back. You took it out, put it back and regrow the forest, things like that, instead of just leaving these pits open. But we have to have companies be accountable for that kind of stuff. There's always never the perfect solution to this, but
right.
Hopefully I'm hopeful that we can get to the point where we're doing this in a lab and manufacturing out and not having to go there and drill anymore.
I mean, they're doing lab grown diamonds now.
They're doing the diamonds, I know.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I want to be made into a diamond when you die. Like they can take your ashes and then they can like make it into a diamond. It's pretty cool.
Are you kidding me, Lila?
I know. It's really cool.
Caitlin, have you heard of this?
No, you're teaching me. That's all.
I need to
Oh,
look
no,
this
they
up
put
after. I
ashes
don't
in,
want to go
like-
morbid, but that sounds very interesting.
I either want to do that or be injected into an acorn and then grown into a tree.
Oh.
This is a whole other conversation. I have seen composting.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to go there. But that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I actually have a question
Sure.
though. Do you think that electric cars are significantly better for the environment than gas powered? Because the batteries that they use for electric cars are apparently really bad for the environment. I just want to know which one's better.
Yeah, that's a good question too. So this is like, I would say when you have the problem with like right now, everything's about carbon. So we're all worried about carbon and we need to lower carbon. And so from that standpoint, the electric car is way better because no more carbon is going into the atmosphere from the car anyway. But the battery it is bad for the environment. And so I think that kind of comes back to another switch where we need to have innovation in recycling. So we make something and then we need to make sure they all get back to somewhere where we can then deal with it, recycle it, and put it back into another product. So it's not just like ending up in a landfill with pollution occurring around it. And so these are like, it's this really complicated thing between technology, policy, companies, and who's responsible to make sure that nothing bad happens to things. So I would say it's a tough question. They both have cons, but if we need to bring the carbon down quickly, we have the electric car is the best option for now. Maybe there's new ideas. Maybe people on this call haven't been.
I guess I'm getting a Tesla for my first car.
No, just have to get a Tesla.
Oh, I have one more question. As a geologist, do you like work with the company or like when you're fresh out of college, do you work at the company or like do you freelance or I was
what's
thinking
that too, Rennie. Great question.
Yeah, what's like the process after your like college education?
Yeah. Also, should I stop sharing? Would that be better? Hold on. So we're end up like in a group again. Hi. Okay. Okay, so I'll tell you my path, and there's many paths. I went from undergraduate school to graduate school, and in the sciences in general, not just geology, there's a deal where you work there's three ways. You either work as a research assistant, you work as a teaching assistant, and keep in mind, because there's many of these, there's fellowships out there. So like the government or a nonprofit will give you money to study the science that you're interested in. So I was fortunate, and then your school is free. So you don't pay for school and you get paid to be a graduate student scientist. So for the past, I've been in school for 7 more years after my undergrad. So I've been in school since I was 18. I'm 30 now, which is crazy. But ever since graduate school, I've never paid for tuition. I've been taking classes for free, and I've been getting paid like in the like $20,000 to $30,000 range. It changed a little bit over the year. And I won a number of fellowships, so I actually didn't even have to work for it. I was just given money to study, which has been amazing. And is like, I could tell you that people don't apply for these things. So I can give you like my sort of all the fellowships that I know of, but not a lot of people apply for them. And so there's these things out there, and if you go for them, there's a good chance of getting it just for applying.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And
So they're paying for the government's essentially paying for your schooling.
Mhm.
And then they're also giving you a stipend, I guess I'll say,
Yeah.
for living expenses, right?
Yeah. To live and buy
To
food,
live.
pay my
I mean,
house.
it's pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
I mean, I'm sure you'd want a little bit more,
Rennie, are
but
you
eventually you
listening?
will. I know, Rennie, maybe this is your calling.
but
He wants to be a doctor, right?
doctors, they haven't yet paid for doctors. Doctors, you have to pay, but there's things where you can be a scientist and a doctor. Those would pay. They
Yeah.
let them do it, but I do have friends who went from undergrad and then worked in industry. So we can do like, you can work for a mining company. Geologists also work for oil companies, but then we kind of also do the opposite where we work for environmental consulting and we go clean up places that have been polluted. And so a lot of my friends went that direction and have been cleaning up and working in industry, and they make good money out of college. I think most of them start around like $50,000 to $55,000, and you can become a professional geologist, which takes some time, but your pay goes up a lot. So you'll be making closer to $100,000 or more as a professional geologist. So there's definitely like more than one way to go, but there's a lot of jobs out there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, there is.
This was so awesome, Kaitlyn. Thank you
Yeah,
for
of
all of this
course.
knowledge and opening our eyes to all of this. Any more questions from our girls? No?
You can follow her on Instagram.
Yes.
And if you have any other questions,
What's your Instagram name?
I'll put it. I'm not gonna lie, I've been bad about Instagram lately, but I think I'm gonna come back out of my Instagram hiatus. But here's my Instagram. And you can see the things I'm up to. There's some more rock things in there.
Now you're gonna have to up your game a little bit. You have teenagers following you now.
I know, I've got a following.
Actually, those would be really cool posts for, the younger generations to
Yeah.
see and follow, because it's so outside the box. They're,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not the norm.
it would be really good. I don't know, at some point during the pandemic, I was like, I can't be on Instagram anymore, but
And you should come to
Follow.
our career expo in May.
Okay.
I was just thinking about that.
yeah, let me know the
We can
weekend.
set up something cool, May 20th.
I have a baby shower.
You're going to like
that
Tennessee or
day.
something.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
wish,
They have a
but,
baby shower. Okay.
I know. I would keep me in mind for future
Yeah.
things too.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
all
you
for
so
also,
much.
yeah, I'm really excited to meet you and interact, and thanks for the great questions and like awesome answers. You guys are going to go very, very far. I know it's, and you can also contact me, email, you could share, however, if there's like specific questions, even if like something I mentioned connects with you and 5 or 10 years down the road, I'm always here for these.
You hear that, girls?
So
Okay.
I've helped a lot of people with fellowship applications. I'm very good with these types of things. And I'm happy to help
Amazing.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely need you for that.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night,
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Good night,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.
Bye,
Bye.
girls. Bye.
Bob.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much again.
Of course. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.